Welcome to the Growing with Charles Malki podcast. I am the co-founder of ivyorganics.com brand products and host of America's leading garden product YouTube channel. Today's primary topic is plant evolution and the importance of native plants in every garden. Afterwards, I'll be answering several questions that I got from you in the past week. To participate, email us your questions. We'd also love to share your testimonials too by emailing us at info@ivyorganics.com, or you can call our toll-free number. Please include the following information when submitting your questions, starting with your first name, your city and state, and your grow zone. Well, let's get started. Plant evolution and the importance of native plants in every garden. So I'm living in one of America's largest cities, Los Angeles, and the history of LA, if you go back just 100 years ago, the population was about 90% less. And you go back another 100 years ago, and they were constructing the first missions here in LA. So the history of LA is relatively new. And what people have done, aside from the freeways and the roads and the construction of houses and skyscrapers, is we've turned our native landscape into a concrete jungle. We do have an urban forest within it that is being, to the best of our ability, protected and cared for and managed. One important consideration is the beautification of the trees within a city, making sure that the trees are properly pruned and that there aren't strangling branches or top heavy trees. So pruning is important, but another value of maintaining your city trees is also making sure that those branches also don't become too flimsy and potential risk to property and, more importantly, lives. So these are just some of the considerations with what people have done to what was once a native natural landscape in just the last 100 years, 150 years here in our city of Los Angeles. And similar situations are happening all across America. We're going into the history and the evolution of plants just briefly, just to show the massive impact people have had on landscape compared to what nature has already built into itself and has created for us to enjoy over the millennia, for millions of years, even though we were not yet here, even though some people think we were. So the history of plants is, and we can go all the way back to like the Big Bang Theory, which happened about 14 billion years ago, and then the Earth was formed about 4 billion. So about 10 years after Big Bang, Earth now is formed about 4.5 billion years ago. And then after another billion or two more years, we now have the first cells existing on this planet. The first cells that represent animal life and the first cells that represent plant life. And then about another billion and a half more years. So now we're at about 500 million years ago. Plants are now able to migrate out of the water. We're talking about the algae, and start creating some of the primitive life form, such as mosses and stuff on land, still requiring a lot of moisture, no vascular actually structure within the plant, and but it is now able to migrate out of the water and now make its way onto shore under proper condition. Over the course of another 100 million more years, vascular tissues are now being formed. And now the gymnosperm category of plants is born. These are the cone plants, typically categorized by having separate male and female parts. Sometimes it could be the upper half of the plant is male, lower half of the plant is female, or the cycads, which are known as your sago palms, are sometimes just of male palm tree or a female palm tree. The female palm will create the cones, and the male obviously responsible for the pollen. And you're going to need a male and female sago in order to create cross pollination and another generation of cycads. And then another one that's also in the conifer gymnosperm category of plants are the ginkgo, known as the memory plant. And those are also very popular city trees, as they're very pollutant tolerant type trees. And the category of gymnosperms represents about 1,000 species of plants. About another million more years pass. Now we're at about 200 million years ago. The gymnosperms now evolve into angiosperms. And the angiosperms are categorized as creating now perfect flowers, a flower that has both male and female parts. And these are the plants you and I are most familiar with, such as our tomatoes, peppers, squash, roses, and the list are palm trees, such as your Washington fan palms and your um, I call them the pineapple palm, canary palms, and so forth. There are 300,000 species of angiosperms compared to the only 1,000 species of the gymnosperms. So, a huge change in evolution that has created massive diversity of this planet, and and this existed all 200 million years ago. And then we get to the point where now Homo sapiens, right? This is our branch off the tree if we're going to follow evolution, where mankind, as we know it, appears about 200,000 years ago. We're not talking about millions and billions. 200,000 years ago to about 300,000 years ago, the genus species Homo sapiens existed. And then when we talk about when did Homo sapiens, which is, the caveman ancestor of ourselves, became civilized only 10,000 years ago. It was only about 10,000 years ago that Homo sapiens learned how to farm and perform agriculture in the sense of planting trees, learning how to do cuttings. Grafting is a practice that goes back thousands of years, and we learn how to grow our own food so we can now colonize a particular area, typically near a water source. And instead of hunting and gathering and sometimes starving for food, we can now count on regular, consistent food. And that's kind of like the history of um, evolution on our planet. And to put things in the spectrum of time, if we only go back, we talked about Big Bang was 14 billion years. To shorten the time frame, if we go to the start of the Earth at 4.5 billion years ago to today, civilized man, the fact that we've been here for about 10,000 years, um, our total time on this planet, if we can convert the 4.5 billion years into a 24-hour time period, would mean that we have been on this planet for only 1/5 of 1 second, meaning again, we've only been here for zero point 0.2 of a second compared to, for example, insects and fish that have already been on this planet for 2.5 hours. So, big difference in regards to all these things that we're enjoying around us have truly been bestowed upon us to enjoy, and we should genuinely, sincerely appreciate and respect and care for all the things that existed like for millions of years, hundreds of millions of years before we ever even got here. So I want to put all of these things in a perspective. And for those of you looking for gardening tips and where is this going, it's highly relevant because all of you, I can say with confidence that more than 99%, 95% of you are not integrating native plants into your landscape. And then when I teach these classes, I would share with an audience, and usually one person will get this. What is the significance of evolution and understanding evolutionary history? How is that important in maximizing and making the most of your garden efforts from year to year? And usually one person out of a group of about 20 to 50 people will get this right. And the answer is native plants. It's the fact that these plants have existed on the planet, as we mentioned with angiosperms, being here for over 200 million years. These angiosperms are important for attracting the pollinators into your garden. When I talk about native plants specific to California, or even more specifically, Southern California, some of my favorite plants when visiting the Theodore Payne Foundation, which is the leading distributor of native plants in our, I think, Southern California area, they have, for example, one plant I picked up many years ago in my interview with Lisa Novak, one of the directors there, the California fuchsia. And California fuchsia has a wonderful relationship with hummingbirds. I get more hummingbirds into my property planting California fuchsia than I've ever seen before. So the hummingbirds come to the California fuchsia, but then visit the other fruit trees that I have in my property, such as my citrus, or my avocados, or apples and beyond. I've got about 25 fruit trees on my property. And by integrating California native plants, one example I just mentioned is California fuchsia, you're now going to have more hummingbirds. You're also going to get more bees. Another one of my favorite native plants, and again, you got to find the native plants that are specific to your grow area, would be something like milkweed. And what's so excited about milkweed, which we've planted at our local fire station in Los Angeles, and the firefighters are loving it, is that by planting milkweed, you now attract all of the monarch butterflies within about a mile, maybe even a little bit more than a mile from where that plant is, even when it's not in bloom. Monarch butterflies are in search for milkweed plants because it is the only plant they will lay their eggs on. It is the only plant that their caterpillars can consume and eat and grow from. So without milkweed, and you can imagine again, we start off as this concrete jungle that we built here in Los Angeles, and where milkweed once existed all over the place, and now it's hard to find, is one of the reasons that a lot of researchers believe that the monarch butterflies are plummeting, is the fact that we've decimated and we've taken away what once existed in nature, and then we planted it our way, planting a lot of plants that are no longer native to the landscape and just doing things that we consider beautiful, but it's not natural and it's not as it was, and it doesn't support the local ecology. The thousands of, we're talking about, you can just go through all the classifications of animals, from the insects to the reptiles to the birds and so forth, that again depend on this ecology, starting with their plants, that we as humans have ruined. And it's our duties to create these islands of hope for the natural environment by at least dedicating a certain portion of your garden to native plants. And as I just mentioned, California fuchsia being one, milkweed's another one, California poppies a third one, the great oak, if you have enough real estate, plant an oak tree. Another thing from one of my interviews that we did on the Ivory Organics YouTube channel with Lisa Novak, again, the director at Theodore Payne Foundation, is that a California oak tree can support up to 5,000 species of insects, lizards. Again, let's just go through the classifications: amphibians, reptiles, birds, and so forth. 5,000. That same California oak tree in our discussion, had it been in Hawaii, again, because the California oak, had it been planted in Hawaii, it would support probably something in the hundreds compared to the 5,000 different species of animals that would benefit from a California oak. So bear in mind that by planting the native things that are closest to where you are, where you live, you can actually encourage attracting the pollinators and also the beneficial insects such as praying mantis and ladybugs and so forth, to help make your garden that much more healthier and stronger naturally. And this is the value of having California native plants in your garden. And if you want to step up what your garden is going to do in this upcoming year, seriously consider tying in California natives with your next growing season and your next plantings. That's my big tip for you guys. And with that, I want to now delve into several questions that we got in the upcoming week that I think will also help you all in making this next year your best growing year. Let's get started. So our first question comes from Tree N, and her question is, do you have a list of retailers that carry your 3-in-1 plant garden near Lakewood, California? And our answer for you is, we highly encourage you to shop local. And what we built into the ivorganics.com website many years ago is a tab in the upper right corner that you should be able to find, which says shop local. And then from there, you'll find all of the businesses that buy from Ivory Organics, and we ship directly to the nursery, so you can basically find our products there. The cost you'll typically find are better because you're not paying for plus shipping with the products, and also you're working and hopefully getting the advice of the experts that are closer to your home. And obviously, the most important one is you're supporting local jobs and businesses and so forth in your city, and we highly stand behind that. As a made in America product, we want to be a part of that growing success all around the country and all around the world, as we have stores in various countries as well. So we highly encourage you to shop local, support your local nurseries. And for those of you that walk through your local nursery and don't find our products, we highly encourage you to get in touch with them and have them reach out to us. And we look forward to creating more, obviously, business partners around the country and obviously around the world. Our next question comes from Drexel J, and his question reads as follows. Hey folks, I need to consider using a 1 gallon pump sprayer for my fruit trees. When that chore is complete, will I need to use any type of special cleaning process for the sprayer unit before using again? Thanks, Drexel. And the short answer for you, Drexel, is simply soap and water. You can wash out, clean out your spray tank with simply soap and water. Make sure, obviously, that pump is flushed out, clean with water, and you're good to go and ready to use it for your next application with whatever other products that are going to go through it next. I just want to quickly share with you that this pint-sized can here can make up to 5 gallons of the spray that Drexel is talking about. So it's a nice concentrate, easy way of creating the foliar spray application. And the benefits, I'm not sure, again, what Drexel is going to be using it for, but the general application is curbing weather extremes. If you know the days are going to be too hot or too cold, you can actually protect the leaves and the stems of the plant by spraying it. And the other value with the product by applying the Ivory Organic as a spray is also keeping pests off of it, in addition to, at the time of planting, will help with transplant shock. There's a particular nursery we worked with in the last year, and they were dealing with 95 plus temperatures and were concerned about all their plants on their grounds. And they used the Ivory Organic as an organic, healthy way to basically protect their entire inventory from the damaging effects of sunburn. So again, great question. And for cleanup, real easy, just simple soap and water, and you're good to go with your equipment. The next question we got here is from Tony K, and it's relating to his fig tree. It says, hello, I got 2 fig trees very close to my house and they need to be moved. First, when is the best time to do it? And second, how do I go about without damaging the roots? I live in Lewis County, Washington, so it's really cold here right now. His grow zone range is between 7B and 8B. And what I found in my research is that Lewis County spans hardiness zones, again, that are between 7B, 8A, and 8B, and that some areas can potentially dip into 6B, meaning that the average winter low ranges roughly between 0 degrees Fahrenheit to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and depending on your specific location within that county. So again, when we're talking about grow zone, usually what we're looking at in regards to the timing for moving a deciduous tree such as your fig is um, how cold are the nights. So with your grow zone, again, between 7B and 8B, we're dealing with 0 degrees Fahrenheit to 20 degrees Fahrenheit during the coldest nights of winter in your particular grow zone. I then had to research a little deeper to find out when is your last chance of frost in Lewis County, Washington. And the answer for your particular grow zone spans from either late April to early May. And so now I'm able to answer your question in regards to when is the best time to uproot your fig tree for the best chances of success. And the answer, based on your last chance of frost date, is going to be to do it in early April to mid-April, before your fig tree or any of your other deciduous trees, if it applies for other type trees, is before they wake up. And in your particular county, your chance of your fig tree waking up, and the waking up meaning the temperatures are now warming up to the point that the saps within the tree are beginning to flow, buds are beginning to break, the initial leaves are beginning to push. You want to make sure that you time this uprooting project before any of that happens. To do it sooner, like now in the month of December, would be too soon, because you've still got all of December and January and February and March and some of April with a risk of freezing temperature, which is going to continuously beat up and damage and harm their fig tree. And the fact that it's already established and settled at its location, it's safer that you just leave it alone until we get really close to that fig tree waking up, but before it does. So that's your window. So if I can give you specific instructions on when to do it, it would be early to mid-April would be my best recommendation for getting it done. Again, doing it too soon means that you've now got a weakened tree that is going to be going through some freezing days that's going to further damage your fig, just as the hottest days of summer. And to do any action to whether it be a fig or any other type of tree is going to be of significant risk, and I don't recommend doing it. So again, your best, sweetest spot is going to be that first week to mid-April for basically uprooting your fig tree. The other part of your question is, um, I'm going to make sure I read this exactly as you wrote it. The second part, how do I go about without damaging the roots? And the answer is you can't. There's no way of uprooting any tree without damaging roots. But my tip for you is when now uprooting the tree and you're trying to obviously save as much roots as you can, is you must now prune the tree as well. So you've now, let's say, we're able to somehow save, let's say, 60% of the roots or 50% of the roots, or maybe you get lucky and you can get 80% of the roots. I recommend that you prune the top half of the tree by about 50%. So you're going to do a massive prune to the tree to offset the damage you've done to the root system. And then that will reduce the shock to the fig tree so it doesn't end up dying. At the end of the day, your goal is you want it to survive this transfer and thrive well for another year as it gets established. So you have many more years, and figs can live like 100 years or more. So the goal is if you do this successfully, you may not have the best fruits in the first year, but at least it's alive. And depending on the value and the importance of that fig tree, as some of you know, some of my figs are very personal to the family, and we want them to, survive and thrive, for many more years. The other thing too, with all the cuttings that you get off your fig, I would save some cuttings and also propagate those in mid-April, so you end up with more fig trees. So just in the case that that fig tree dies, at least the genetics are preserved and that flavor can be enjoyed for many more years. Figs, as we're talking about with evolution, were probably some of the first fruits ancient man was propagating, as it's one of the easiest of fruits to propagate by way of cutting, simply taking a 6 to 8 inch piece of wood and scoring it, maybe a little bit of rooting powder, um, and you can just stick it right in the soil, and 90+% you should be having some success with those cuttings. While we're on the topic of fig cuttings, every single year, Ivy Organics, and I highly recommend you mark your calendar on February 1st, we give away about 50 to 100 quality fig varieties to our customers across America. And it's our annual free fig cutting giveaway. The details you can find on Ivy Organic YouTube videos that have been published every year for the last almost 8 years now. And you can read all those details in the video description below. And obviously, there'll be more lessons coming up and more reminders as we get closer to February 1st. But again, for those of you watching and listening, make sure you mark your calendars because these fig cuttings go really fast, especially on the first day of February. So our next question comes from Christina L. And her subject's passion fruit cuttings. And she writes, "Hi, I just watched your video on making cuttings of your passion fruit vine. I would like to get one if possible. Thank you." And Christina, we love sharing. As I just mentioned a few moments ago, we do an annual free fig cutting giveaway. We used to do an annual passion fruit cutting giveaway usually in the summer months. And but for all of our customers that ask for passion fruit cuttings, we've been able to keep up with demand and always make available whatever we can to our customers that ask. And to date, we've always been able to fulfill those requests, and we're happy to do so as long as we can. So if you'd like a passion fruit cutting with your order, we simply ask that when you're on the customer notes at checkout, that you include the words, "If possible, please include a passion fruit cutting," or you can write, "Please don't ship unless I get a passion fruit cutting," and we'll, make sure that your order doesn't ship out without, is a way to communicate that to it. It will come to my desk, and obviously I'll do my best. It may delay your order a day, maybe even a week, until I can hopefully fulfill your request. And again, inventory wise, today I've always been able to meet all of our customers' needs, and we're happy to do that. We look forward to hopefully being a part of making the, being a part of your next growing season and providing you and your family with some delicious fruits. So, Christina, thanks for that question. So, for all of the participants that submitted excellent questions for us to share on today's podcast, we are going to simply select a winner. And today's winner is Christina L. And we are happy to share with you, since you asked about the passion fruit cuttings, we're going to give you some passion fruit cuttings from my garden. I'm also going to include a complimentary bag of the Super Blend 11-ounce bag of fertilizer with free shipping. So I'll be reaching out to you to get your best ship to address. Again, for participants, we're looking for those in the United States, as it'll include free shipping. And again, but we welcome questions from all around the world. And again, congratulations, Christina L, for joining us and being a part of today's podcast. In conclusion, I hope you've enjoyed today's lessons on plant evolution and the importance of native plants in every garden, and learning from our customer questions as well. Join us on all of our social media platforms, and if you can't watch, catch us wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's keep growing, and wishing you all happy gardening.